Hello, welcome back to another tutorial with me, Sam Levitt, on the Levitt Creative channel. Today's episode, we're talking all about popsicle design. Well, in a sense. This video was inspired by Ghost Paper's most recent tutorial. It came out just this morning, and I watched it and I loved it, and I've been practicing it. So I figured I would share some of the stuff that I have learned from him. Go check out his channel. It is awesome. So first, I'm starting off with just creating a color palette. I'm going to pick my main color, and that's going to be the main color of my popsicle, and then I'm going to do 2 shades lighter and 2 shades darker. I ended up forgetting to turn my phone or my iPad on airplane mode, so 2 shades lighter, and then I'm going to do the popsicle stick color, and then a contrasting color for the background and for the little shadow underneath it that I put. And then I drag my color palette over, and we'll get started. So first, I'm going to get me a color that's black that's on there, just because it's nice to have, because that's what we're doing the outline with. I'm using a monoline pencil that I've turned the streamline all the way up. That's the only thing I've changed on it. And this first layer, I'm going to make basically what I want the shape to look like, but not make it like so perfect, and create a new layer in a second. Kind of jumped the gun on that one. So I'm then going to lower the opacity, and this time I'm going to focus on making it what I really want it to look like and making it so it is perfect. And you'll see that I undo a whole lot because that's the beauty of digital artwork. You get to redo it a bajillion times. So I loved how the shape turned out, how it's a little bit wider at the bottom, but I really just needed to taper and fix this end part. So that's what we did. And then I added the stick, basically just tracing what I had already. And then I unselected my low opacity tracing, deleted it, added a layer underneath, and then I made my outline layer a reference layer. This makes it so I can drop colors into the layers without having to mess with my outline at all. And I find that this is just easier overall, and it's nice to just not have to worry about it. So then I add another layer, and I add a separate layer for my stick. And then I'm going to add a clipping mask to both of those so I can add my color. And if you watch Ghost Paper's video, which I highly recommend, this is the first one he shows, and he does a pawn, and this one I chose to do a popsicle, so it's a lot simpler than his, because his had like a lot of undershadows under all the other elements, whereas a popsicle like this is just one big lump. So I'm just doing some in the top and the bottom. So we've got our first color added, and then I chose to add second colors. And I kept having this issue with the pop-out palette where I would select a color and it wouldn't register. So you'll see me color with the wrong color several times in this video. So I just kind of followed the same curve of the popsicle, and you can see that I undo and redo a lot. So if that's how you are, know that you're not alone. And then I just do the same thing, follow the curve on the bottom left, and this is kind of just like the style how I liked it. You can make it any way you like. You can make it a little bit more rigid or whatever worked best for you. This was me struggling with the color palette tool again. And also I wanted something that was a little bit more saturated because I felt like that brown just didn't really match. And that is our main popsicle. And now we're going to do our popsicle underneath. And I was on the wrong layer, so I had to go back in. Do that. This one, I figured there would be a shadow underneath and I didn't like that brown either, so I ended up redoing that. But I figured there'd be a shadow from underneath as well as to the side, so that's why I have it curve around and back around and back around. Very eloquently said. And that's basically it for the cartoony version. It's basically just color blocks and yeah, adding the highlights and the shadows. And so I used my blue color for a background, and then I'll show you how I did a little shadow underneath it. And I ended up really liking how it looked with just like the circle that I drew. I Gaussian blurred it to add like, you know, it being a shadow, but I'm kind of wishing I would have just left it and like brought it down a little bit lower, because looking back, I don't love it. But you live and learn, you know, you look at it later and you realize you hate it half the time. So that is one option. And then I will show you kind of a more realistic option, something that I covered a little bit in the shading and highlights video. I tried to do the Gaussian blur, but I don't have enough color on there for it to really look like anything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add more color in the top and the bottom, and then we will blend it in 2 different ways, just like I did in the highlight video. Sorry, my voice keeps cracking. Another time where I tapped the freaking color and it didn't work for me. So we've got the top colors and then the bottom colors. And I could have sped this up, but I didn't. So we've got that coming back into it. And then I'm going to go into the smudge brush in between the brush and the eraser tool, and I'm going to do Layer Puno because it's my favorite, and I just feel like it blends the colors really well. And that was way too big, so we redid that, made it a lot smaller, a little less powerful, and I basically blended it. Sometimes I had to add some color back in and then reblend that back in, but this is how it turned out. And honestly, I think you could figure out a way to make this work because I think it looked kind of cute, but I ended up going back in, and I'm still on those clipped layers that way it stays within the lines. And we're gonna go to the airbrush, but I did this on the actual brush setting, and I meant to do on the airbrush or on the smudge. So we're gonna go to airbrush and soft blend, and my power wasn't great enough, and then I realized I was on the stick, so I had to go back up. And then we've got the blending here. And this is just making it look a little bit more realistic, kind of like the orange that we did in the other video. And I could have added a little bit more dark at the bottom left of the popsicle because I kind of pushed all the color away. So looking back, I would have done that differently as well. And then we're just going to add some reflections, basically like as if the popsicle is shiny. So I'm just going to draw a line. Again, another time where I tapped the color and it didn't work. And you could do this with your lightest color, or you could do this with white technically. And then I just used the Gaussian blur and I blurred it just so it looked a little bit more natural. And that is it for the second one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'd love if you liked and subscribed, and if this video was helpful, shared it with someone else. Bye.